Hey guys, today I want to go over land scams that are going on in Florida. Hey guys, today I want to go over land scams that are going on in Florida. And it's not something that I personally feel is being reported enough about and that I have personal experience with. So, again, there's land scams that are going on in Florida, anywhere from Naples up to Sarasota, Punta Gorda, Miami, but it's more prevalent in the areas that have a significant amount of vacant land. I'm going to pull some articles up today over the on the screen here and go over them with you and also give you some of my personal experience when purchasing land and how I've ran into these issues and how I've tried to circumvent and how I did circumvent and luckily did not end up getting scammed myself. These people are very gifted. You got to understand, as smart as you are, they're just as smart and they focus on these scams and stealing and being fraudulent. So again, I'm going to go over like fake titles, ownership scams. We'll then get into landlocked type of property, environmental type of concerns, which isn't necessarily a scam, but it's something where you could lose money if you don't know what you're getting involved in. Utilities that might not exist, and then any type of flood zone related issues. But first, let's get into, fake titles and ownership related scams. So really the whole point of the fake title is that someone is representing ownership of, let's say, a vacant lot. Let's say it's a 10,000 square foot vacant lot that you plan to purchase to build a home on. They do not own it. Okay. The person that does own it is most likely 99%, if not 100%, not aware that it's for sale. It really gets into impersonating the owner, and they're really pushing for a quick sale. And how some of this can become somewhat, if not pretty obvious. Let's say the regular price for this dry lot, 10,000 square foot, making a number up, is $50,000. The going rate on Zillow, Realtor, MLS, everybody knows it's worth 50 grand. Okay. They're going to list it for 25,000, 30,000. Smarter scammers, at least in my opinion, which I mean, I shouldn't even be giving this opinion, but the point is like, I want you to understand what you're dealing with. You know, they might put it at like 25, 30% off. So at 50,000, they might be at 35, 40. Because why? 20 or 25 is too obvious. Like, if you're that desperate, somebody's going to buy it somewhere. But you put it lower, a little bit lower than the 50. So you put it at 35, 40, and it looks real. It just looks like, hey, this person's from the Midwest, the Northeast, from Canada, they're older. Whatever excuse somebody makes up in their head of why they want to hurry up and purchase it, right? Again, these people are smart. They know what they're doing. They know they go after smart people, people that have money, people that don't have money. They don't really care how much money you have, how smart you are. They just want to steal your money. So they're impersonating a landowner, and right now, I'm going to pull up a couple articles and I'll try to get it here on the screen. There's a couple really good ones from the National Association of Realtors, and then also some Florida websites. For example, here, the one I just pulled up is Office of the Attorney General, How to Protect Yourself, Land Sale Scams. This is a perfect one for you to read before even speaking to a realtor, title agent, even looking at land. Just pull this up. It'll give you good information. Be wary of the hard sell. If somebody's like trying to just really sell you something, like come on, like I'll knock another 5 grand off. It's like, wait, why are you so desperate? Like everybody else is $20,000 more. Why do you need it so bad? And you also got to be realistic. Unless we're in like a huge deep recession, and even then, there's still a lot of people buying land. There's still a lot of wealthy investors or group investors that at any point in time are still buying land. Even in 2008 and 9 and 10, the heart of like the major recession, there was still real estate moving. Now, this $50,000 lot might have been $5,000, But my point is, it was still moving. So be wary of the hard sell. Again, I'm on My Florida Legal, which is the Office of the Attorney General. I'm really reading, kind of paraphrasing from their website. So obviously give them all the credit. For purchasing land, take the following steps. They're going over, 5 or 10 steps of what to look at. And, thank God that Florida cares enough to put these websites out there. But my concern is not everybody knows. Not everybody is searching this before they speak to a realtor. And I'm a licensed broker associate in Florida. And I can tell you from my experience, and this is nothing against any realtor that has a license that's done any sale or not have done any sales. You can't know everything, right? It's not possible to know everything. And unless you've sold vacant land and been involved in a scam, or you do a lot of research and case studies on these scams, then you don't have the experience and it's not their fault. I have the experience because I've put offers out and almost been scammed myself. That's where my experience comes from, right? I mean, a lot of people, they would try to watch the YouTube videos. You read these websites, it pulls up in like a chat GPT or Gemini or some other AI program, which is great, new technology, but still, like, you have to do your own research. You can't only rely on a real estate agent, a home builder, contractor like ourselves. You can't only rely on a title agent. You have to have a mix of people. You have to have somebody like ourselves in your corner, a title agent, a real estate attorney, which I recommend on every transaction you'll ever do in Florida. I do. I hire a real estate attorney for everything, even if it's a 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever $1,000 lot. Like, spend the money. Okay, now let's get back to this. So we talked about be wary of the hard sell. They have a bunch of different steps on here. Research the builder or sales agent. Now, what they're talking about here is more of a potential scam from a builder or real estate agent. Now, those do exist and you can search it online for yourself, but those are, in my opinion, a lot less likely to happen because as a general contractor myself, I have to have a license with the state of Florida. And it does happen, obviously. You can research it and we'll go over this on other videos. And, real estate agents are licensed with the state of Florida as well. But the likelihood of them wanting to like lose their license over one scam or a couple of scams is a lot less likely. These people that are doing it aren't licensed. They're not in Florida. And from one of them that I was involved in, they're not even in the country, which is a whole nother deal, right? But this is saying research the builder or sales agent, which is a good point. Read up on it. But I would put even more emphasis on researching who the actual owner of the property is, right? And thankfully, with Florida and the different counties and jurisdictions, it's usually pretty easy to look that up. And you can, thumb through all the different like title transfers and everything else. Obtain a copy of the property report and be wary of any company claiming to have an unbeatable deal for you, which is what I basically went over earlier. If the going rate's 50,000 for a lot and somebody's trying to sell it for 40, that's kind of, maybe they are a little desperate. But when it's getting down to like 35, 30, 25, 20, like, there's something really wrong. There, like, right now, and even in the last 10 years, there's been more than enough people wanting to buy land that it's going to sell. Like, even right now, it might take 6 months, but it's going to sell at some point, unless you're overpricing it, which is a whole nother talking topic for real estate. So again, that was the Office of the Attorney General. I'm going to pull up the Florida Realtors, which is, I belong to the Florida Realtors Association and the National Realtors Association, and they do a really good job educating clients. I get their magazine once a month, a lot of really good information. And there's a news and media, which we'll pull up here on the video. And this one's Title Pirates, Target Vacant Land and Fraud Trend. So vacant land is a top target for title fraud as scammers forge deeds to sell properties they don't own. New alerts and safeguards aim to curb the trend. So this is article, which I love because it's giving like actual percentages, fact and data. It's real facts. It's not, somebody just talking out there on the street. So who's at risk? National Association of Realtors NAR survey. Vacant properties are the most vulnerable. Only 12% of title fraud cases in the past year involved owner occupied homes, which I have a good one for you too. So don't let me forget. While 62% involved vacant land, the other 16% is detached single family houses. So we got 62% at vacant land, and that's basically what I'm here to talk about today. But we'll go over like the houses in a minute. I mean, the whole selling a house you don't own is almost like a whole nother video. How sellers impersonate the scams that work. Looks like Mr. Cronkite the second, who's a real estate broker and co-founder of Fraud Prevention. He goes into a couple paragraphs, really good information. Obviously, this gentleman specializes in this, so it'd be something worth looking into. And it goes into, how to combat the fraud, whether it's, electronic notification systems, property title freezes. Some of this is like if you, as the owner, are ready, and having this not happen to you. But what I am really talking about today on this video is about when you want to go purchase the land, to have somebody like us build on it, what you need to look out for. But obviously, with existing homes, if you already own something or you already, own land, you want to look at this too. And I really highly recommend looking at this website. Again, I'll pull it up on the screens from floridarealtors.org, and the date is October 27th, 2025. And then we'll go over one more article as well, as I don't want to bore anybody too much, but this is another Florida Realtors article. Again, they do a great job putting this out there. This one's actually from, oh wow, about 2 years, almost, yeah, a little over 2 years ago, October 27, 2023. How does a scammer choose vacant land to scam? So they actually go into how these people, these scammers, are actually trying to choose it, which is a good information because if you understand how they are trying to choose, and then you're going to go buy a property, you have a pretty good defense mechanism of making sure to the best of your ability that you're not going to get scammed yourself. So they're, citing the FBI, stating that well, this one's more about rental scams here, but $396 million in rental scams, which was in 2023. What I just said, think like a criminal, which I mean, obviously, you don't want to be thinking like a criminal, but if you're going to buy a piece of land, like at least think about it for a few minutes of, hey, could this potentially be a criminal trying to sell me a piece of vacant land? So we'll pull that article up as well. But going into the stories real quick. So I was looking at a vacant lot, and I think the going price at that time for that lot would have been, maybe 35,000 or so, 35 to 40, and it was for sale for 25. Now, it wasn't like a perfect lot. And by a perfect lot, I mean like at least in this area, at least 80 feet wide, 120 feet deep. You can build a nice sizable home, three-car garage, whatnot. But anyway, it looked attractive to me, right? Because if you're gonna normally pay 40, 50,000 for a vacant lot, and this is at 25, you're like, whoa. In your head, you're thinking, man, I might be able to, I'll buy two of these instead of buying one other one, right? Here's the problem, and I'll get into this on another video of where you really got to be careful on, buying the vacant land because there's more things than just scams going on as well. But to wrap this whole scam part up, that lot, the listing agent unfortunately got scammed herself and wasn't even aware it was a scam. I was the one who ended up figuring out it was a scam. What first tipped me off a little bit was the price, the listing price. And the listing agent said it was, they're desperate for, they're from out of the country, things like that. And once I asked all the right questions, or at least what I thought was the right questions at the time, because this was a few years ago, things did not start to add up. And that's where you got to listen to your gut, right? Like if your gut is telling you like this doesn't make sense, then guess what, it does not make sense. Like don't force something that you should not have to force. So I'm not going to get too involved in explaining how things ended up happening and what turned out, other than I ended up realizing it was a scam. I notified the realtor and I also spoke to the attorney for that county. And, they did an investigation, handled it the way they needed to. And I obviously stepped out of it at that point and moved on to looking at more legitimate deals. I mean, it looked legitimate at the start and then turned out not to be, right? Okay. So then one other one I could tell you about, which this one's like kind of crazy. And this one was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, calling some for sale by owner, I think it was. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it was a for sale by owner. And the lot was for sale on one of the major websites, which I'm not going to name, but you already can figure it out yourself. They weren't answering. And I was like, this is odd. Like, you're going to have a listing for sale by owner. You're not answering. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to look who the owner is. I'm going to look them up. And there's ways of looking people up, which if you want me to make a video, I can to help people, not to, start annoying people. But I looked them up. I found their phone number. I reached out to them. And the guy almost became, like, belligerent, like, was yelling at us, and I'm like, "Sir, I'm sorry, like, I don't know why you're upset, but I'm just saying that there's a listing online for your vacant lot for sale. I'm just saying if it is for sale and it's yours, I'm interested in looking at it." And him very upset, raising his voice, which after getting off, I understand, even though I don't do that to other people. But his garage, like he owns a lot, okay, with his house on it, and then bought a second lot next door to put his garage on it, and then it like all interconnects. Pretty cool, right? He's like, James, you don't understand. My garage is on the lot. It's not vacant. It's not for sale. And I was like, okay, I understand. I understand you're frustrated. I'm not like I think he thought I was like challenging him, but I'm not challenging you. I'm just asking like the thing for sale, like what's going on here. And what ended up happening, he reported it to those online listing websites, got it taken down, reported it to the county, and took it from there. But I mean, there's people even trying to sell vacant land where there's actually a house on it. They'll go online, they'll go to Google and hey, this looks vacant. I'm just gonna put it up for sale. And they somehow forge the documents enough to be able to get it to go through. And I'm not gonna tell you how they do it and get into all that. And if you're curious, you can probably just Google search it or you can talk to a real estate attorney. But that's another thing. The real estate attorney that I use deals with the FBI. Like she has a direct connection to the FBI and reports these scams when they come up. She's not necessarily going out and looking for them, but she deals with a lot of real estate that's for sale all over the state of Florida. And when it does come up, she reports it. So dealing with somebody, a real estate attorney that is aware of this, understands how these issues come about is very important. And I spoke to her, I think it was, I don't know, like 6 months ago. And she was telling me that she like thankfully stopped one, but this guy from another country that I'm not going to mention had like a 99% real looking passport. And she ended up getting tipped off by one thing, which again, I'm not going to mention on here because I don't want to give anybody any ideas on how to do anything and you need to stay away from it. But there's something on there that tipped her off just enough, just a little bit questionable. That was the only way of her knowing. So it can get pretty crazy out there. So what I'm going to do is wrap this up now because I know it's been a little bit of time. And I'm going to do another video and we'll go over the landlocked property, the environmental concerns, utilities, and some flood zones. So we'll do that on the next video. Stay tuned. But really to wrap it up here, be careful. First thing that like jumps out at me is the price. If the price doesn't make sense, I'm not saying not to call or to ask. Like there are sometimes, people that have life issues that come up that do need to sell something, but just be smart about it. Deal with a real estate agent, broker, associate, a firm that deals with land a lot, people that have the experience dealing with it. I would even ask them, have you ran across scams yourself? Have you seen it? And if they're like, no, I've never seen it, then that might kind of answer your question on whether you want to work with them or not. You want to, work with people that have a vast experience and a lot of experience on whatever you're getting involved in, right? And I'd also, put your own team together. Have a real estate attorney that understands, how these scams come about and has seen them before. And, you can talk to somebody like ourselves, a builder too. I mean, obviously you want to talk to a builder before you buy the land, which is, other videos that we've created. But, put yourself a good team together and you'll be very happy and very excited and very successful down here in Florida. But just be smart with what you're doing.